What's behind the recent surge in aviation accidents? With 87 crashes reported by the National Transportation Safety Board since the start of the year, including 7 deadly incidents, concerns about flight safety are rising. Let's break down what's happening in the skies. In the early months of 2025, the aviation industry has witnessed an unexpected increase in accidents, prompting concerns about air travel safety. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, there have been 88 aviation accidents since the beginning of the year, with 62 occurring in January and 26 in February. Notably, 7 of these incidents have been fatal, resulting in a total of 85 lives lost. This surge has left many travelers and industry experts questioning the underlying causes and implications for future air travel. While air travel remains one of the safest modes of transportation, the recent cluster of accidents has highlighted potential safety gaps. Starting with the Washington D.C. mid-air collision. One of the most devastating aviation disasters of 2025 occurred on January 29th, when an American Airlines regional jet collided midair with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. The crash resulted in the deaths of all 67 people on board both aircraft, making it the deadliest aviation accident in the U.S. since 2001. Investigations indicate that a crucial radio transmission was sent, warning the Black Hawk to adjust its position and maneuver behind the commercial jet. However, the message was reportedly muffled or distorted, preventing the helicopter's pilots from responding in time. This communication failure ultimately led to the tragic collision. Eyewitnesses described a horrific scene as the two aircraft came into contact, followed by an explosion that sent debris into the river. Emergency responders rushed to the crash site, but there were no survivors. The incident has sparked discussions about the effectiveness of air traffic control communication protocols, particularly in busy airspace near major airports. Experts are examining whether technical malfunctions, human error, or procedural shortcomings contributed to the failure in coordination between the two aircraft. Next, we have the Philadelphia medical jet tragedy. On January 31, 2025, just 2 days after the catastrophic midair collision in Washington, D.C., tragedy struck again when a small medical jet crashed into a Philadelphia neighborhood shortly after takeoff. The aircraft was transporting a young patient in critical condition, along with a medical team and crew, when it suddenly lost altitude and slammed into a residential area. The impact caused a massive explosion, setting nearby homes on fire. All 6 people on board, including the patient, a doctor, a nurse, and the flight crew, lost their lives instantly. Additionally, 1 resident on the ground was killed when the fiery wreckage struck their home. First responders arrived quickly, but there was little they could do to save anyone on board. Preliminary investigations suggest that engine failure or a mechanical malfunction may have played a role in the crash. Witnesses reported seeing the plane struggling to gain altitude before plummeting down. Authorities are also examining whether adverse weather conditions or pilot error contributed to the disaster. This heartbreaking accident has sparked discussions about the safety of medical transport flights, which operate under tight schedules and often in emergency situations. While air ambulances and medical jets provide life-saving services, their safety protocols are now being re-evaluated to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Moving on to the Alaska Commuter Plane Disaster. The series of aviation tragedies continued on February 6, 2025, when a commuter plane traveling from the remote village of Unalakleet to Nome, Alaska, suddenly vanished from radar. The small aircraft, carrying 10 passengers and crew, lost contact with air traffic control approximately 20 minutes into its flight. A large-scale search and rescue operation was launched, involving the U.S. Coast Guard, local authorities, and volunteer pilots familiar with Alaska's rugged terrain. After hours of searching in harsh weather conditions, the wreckage was finally discovered in a snow-covered area near the flight path. Tragically, there were no survivors. Preliminary reports indicate that the plane may have suffered a sudden loss of altitude, but investigators have yet to determine the exact cause. Experts are considering several possibilities, including mechanical failure, severe icing, or pilot disorientation due to poor visibility. Witnesses in the area reported hearing an unusual engine sound before the aircraft disappeared. Alaska's challenging weather conditions and vast wilderness make flying essential for many communities, but they also pose serious risks. This crash has once again highlighted the dangers faced by small commuter flights operating in extreme environments. Families of the victims are demanding answers, hoping that this tragic event will lead to improved safety measures for regional flights in Alaska. Up next is the Scottsdale Airport Runway Collision. On February 10, 2025, a tragic accident unfolded at Scottsdale Airport in Arizona when a private jet collided with another aircraft on the runway during landing. The impact resulted in the death of one pilot, while 4 other individuals sustained injuries. This accident has raised serious concerns about runway safety, particularly at smaller airports with high volumes of private and charter aircraft. According to preliminary reports, the private jet, a Cessna citation, was in the process of landing when it struck a smaller turboprop aircraft that had been taxiing on the runway. Witnesses described a loud explosion upon impact, followed by flames and thick smoke billowing from the wreckage. Emergency crews responded immediately, managing to rescue the injured passengers and contain the fire before it spread to nearby aircraft and airport infrastructure. Scottsdale Airport, which does not have a control tower operating 24/7, relies on pilots to self-announce their positions when landing or taxiing, a system that, while common at smaller airports, can sometimes lead to confusion and dangerous situations. Aviation experts emphasize the need for improved runway safety measures, such as updated surveillance systems and enhanced pilot communication protocols. This incident serves as a stark reminder of the risks associated with runway incursions and the importance of maintaining strict safety regulations to prevent future collisions. Now, we turn to the Central Florida Cessna 208 crash. On February 14, 2025, a tragic aviation accident occurred when a 10-seat Cessna 208 crashed in a rural area of Central Florida. The aircraft, which was flying from Sebastian to Palatka, was reported missing after it failed to arrive at its destination on time. After an extensive search, emergency responders located the wreckage in a remote, wooded area. Sadly, the pilot, the only person on board, did not survive. According to initial reports, the plane lost contact with air traffic control shortly before the crash. Witnesses in the area reported hearing a loud engine noise followed by a sudden silence, leading investigators to suspect possible mechanical failure or engine trouble. Weather conditions at the time of the flight were reportedly clear, reducing the likelihood that turbulence or poor visibility played a major role. Flight data, maintenance records, and communications between the pilot and air traffic control are under examination. This accident highlights the risks associated with single-pilot operations, particularly in small aircraft that may lack advanced safety features found in larger commercial planes. Aviation experts stress the importance of thorough pre-flight checks and regular maintenance to prevent similar incidents. As authorities continue their investigation, the aviation community mourns the loss of another pilot in what has been a troubling year for air safety. Following that is the Toronto Pearson Airport Crash. On February 17, 2025, a near-catastrophic event unfolded at Toronto Pearson International Airport when a Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis crash-landed on an icy runway. The aircraft, struggling with the slippery conditions, lost control upon touchdown, skidded uncontrollably, flipped over, and erupted into flames. Miraculously, despite the severity of the accident, all 80 passengers and crew on board survived, though 21 individuals sustained injuries. Passengers described a terrifying experience as the plane slammed into the runway, the cabin jolting violently before the aircraft overturned. Panic ensued as flames erupted from the fuselage, filling the interior with smoke. Emergency exits were deployed as crew members worked swiftly to evacuate everyone before the fire spread. Survivors recalled the chaos of escaping the burning wreckage in freezing temperatures, many sliding across the icy ground as emergency responders rushed to the scene. Firefighters quickly extinguished the flames, preventing further disaster. Preliminary investigations suggest that the icy conditions, combined with possible landing gear issues, may have contributed to the crash. Aviation experts are examining whether pilot error, mechanical failure, or insufficient runway de-icing played a role in the incident. Finally, we have the Marana Regional Airport mid-air collision. On February 19, 2025, a devastating mid-air collision occurred at Marana Regional Airport near Tucson, Arizona, when 2 small planes crashed while attempting to land. The tragic accident claimed the lives of both pilots, reigniting concerns about safety at smaller airports that operate without control towers. The 2 aircraft, a Cessna 172 and a Piper PA-28, were both performing landing maneuvers when they collided at a low altitude. Witnesses on the ground described a horrifying scene as the planes made contact, with debris scattering across the airfield. One of the aircraft spiraled downward, crashing into a nearby field, while the other attempted an emergency landing but was too damaged to make it safely to the runway. Marana Regional Airport, like many small airports in the U.S., does not have an air traffic control tower. Instead, pilots are responsible for self-announcing their positions over the radio and coordinating landings with other aircraft in the vicinity. This system, while standard for many general aviation airports, is now under scrutiny as investigators work to determine whether miscommunication or lack of awareness contributed to the crash. While the recent spate of accidents is alarming, it's essential to contextualize these events within broader aviation safety trends. Experts emphasize that, despite these incidents, air travel remains one of the safest modes of transportation. The clustering of accidents in a short time frame, though tragic, may be coincidental rather than indicative of systemic safety failures. Aviation authorities are conducting thorough investigations to identify any common factors and implement measures to prevent future occurrences. For travelers feeling apprehensive due to recent headlines, it's important to recognize that aviation safety has improved significantly over the past decades. The industry continually adapts, learning from each incident to enhance protocols, training, and technology. While the loss of life is always tragic, the overall number of accidents relative to the volume of flights remains exceedingly low. Passengers are encouraged to stay informed, follow safety guidelines, and trust in the rigorous standards upheld by the aviation community. These recent crashes serve as a sobering reminder that constant improvements in technology, communication, and safety protocols are essential. As the aviation industry responds to these challenges, passengers and crew members alike hope for stronger measures to ensure safer skies. What are your thoughts on this surge in aviation accidents? Do you think enough is being done to prevent them? Let us know in the comments below. Let's think, discover, and grow together as we seek solutions for safer air travel. Stay informed, stay safe, and keep watching for more updates on this developing issue.